And then, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our first Solar 101 for the Richmond Hampton Road Fall Co-op. Some people bring in. We'll get started in just a second. Again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Brandon Prager. I'm the Virginia Program Director for Solar United Neighbors. I'm joined this afternoon by my two colleagues, Sukrit Mishra and Naomi Rios, from our Go Solar team. They'll be monitoring the chat and taking stock of any questions that are asked. And we'll get into some housekeeping things. There is a Q&A button on the bottom of your Zoom on your Zoom screen. So I'll stop in between each section. And if you have any questions, please throw them there and we will answer them as we move throughout the presentation. And at the end, we'll also have a brief period for some questions, for some Q&A. And this will not be our only Solar 101. There will be some in-person and some more virtual Solar 101 that will take place in 2025 from January to March. But again, thank you for being with us. And now I'm going to introduce one of our supporters who's here with the City of Norfolk, Megan Hale. And Megan, I'll turn it over to you and put your slide back up.
Thanks so much. Really glad to be on the call today. The City of Norfolk is a collaborator with Solar United Neighbors, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank you all for your interest, and then kind of go over some of the reasons that we're here and that we're committed to helping to expand solar energy on residential properties. So we could go to the next slide, please. For those of you that don't know, the City of Norfolk does have a climate action plan that was adopted by our City Council in 2019. This guidebook, I will say, is a pretty substantial plan, and what our team has done is broken it out into these 6 focus areas. So we look at building energy efficiency, transportation, food and agriculture, renewable energy production, consumption and waste, and then education, outreach, and engagement. So, I say this all the time, but because the city does have this climate action plan, we're sort of talking the talk, and I believe that as an organization, we should also walk the walk. So we have been focused in the last couple of years on internally greening up our operations where we can, and I'll kind of cover some of those topics. But I'm pleased to be part of the organization as the environmental sustainability manager, and just wanted to say that my door is always open. I know many of you may be living outside of the City of Norfolk, but there are colleagues of mine that work in other municipalities that are doing really excellent work across the Hampton Roads region and also within the Richmond area as well. Next slide, please. So yeah, I mentioned that we've got the climate action plan. It's 63 different strategies to help reduce those carbon emissions. So we're really looking at all sorts of different ways to do that. And my role is to lead the city in sustainability programs. As I mentioned, we have been focused lately on our municipal operations, but we're really here to serve the city residents, visitors, and businesses alike. Just a little snapshot on some of our current projects. I will mention that we are a pretty small team. We're a team of two right now, but we collaborate a lot throughout other departments within the city. You'll see on the left there the Go Solar flyer. That's maybe what you saw and why you have arrived here today for this webinar. So we're a partner and a collaborator with Solar United Neighbors, and again trying to expand that solar energy access to our residents. We are also underway with a company by the name of Amoresco, looking at some energy savings opportunities within our municipal buildings. So really, again, trying to green up where we can, and those projects would be self-funded through the energy or water conservation measures that are implemented. The bottom picture is not of Norfolk yet, but we are working in collaboration with our parking division to understand the feasibility of solar canopies on our surface parking lots and on top of our downtown parking garages. So that's something that we'll be moving forward with in the next year or so, at least investigating and see where we can have a solid footprint there. In the upper right is a picture of some electric vehicles being charged. We recently completed an electric vehicle charging plan that is available on our website. Within that project, we did look at how to green up our own fleet vehicles. And then I'll mention this is a pet project of mine, but What's Going Down Norfolk is really intended for our internal employees, of which we have many here in the city of Norfolk, about 4,000, on ways that we can reduce our energy consumption in the workplace and how to translate those habits to and from home. So that's a great way for us to send information to our energy champions across the city government. Next slide, please. And getting, on the topic of solar and renewable energy, we are pleased to announce that we've accepted awards from the SolSmart program. This is a program that's intended for local governments to receive assistance in achieving some goals. In this case with SolSmart, it's achieving benchmarks with solar energy. So we were able to receive those awards in silver and gold because of the work that we've done with Solar United Neighbors in the past, by expanding solar energy on some of our municipal buildings. This past year, we implemented solar at 2 of our local fire stations. That project is going well, pretty seamless process. And another reason that we achieved those awards is due to our streamlined permitting process. So that's really, cornerstone of the SolSmart program, is ensuring that to get a permit to put solar, whether it's on a residential roof, a ground mount, or on a commercial building, that our staff has committed to streamlining that process. And while it won't impact you directly, it will impact your any contractor that you would work with, but that tends to be a barrier in other communities where there's several months of backed up permits. In this case, we've committed to 3 days turnaround, so pretty substantial commitment there. And I think that's actually my last slide. I wanted to keep it brief. This final slide just shows my contact information. We've got a website built around solar, our Climate Action Hub site, if you want to read the climate action plan or understand more of the projects that I have mentioned. And then the electric vehicle site is where you could find that EV charging plan, and then all of the EV chargers that we have here in the city of Norfolk, either on public or private property. But again, my door is open. I encourage anyone who would like to talk in more detail about anything that I've mentioned to reach out to me directly. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Megan, for being with us and for presenting. And we always appreciative of the city of Norfolk's continued collaboration with Sun as we seek to increase the amount of rooftop solar in the state of Virginia. I know that Megan has to run, so she may drop off, but we thank her for coming. And for those of you, before we jump into the next portion, there will be this recording, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be sent to all of the participants or those who have registered for this Solar 101 after the completion of it. All right, let's move on. And let's jump into some solar topics today. I think that there are a couple of questions that are in the chat, I know Secret got to one of them, and we'll continue to monitor the chat. Oh, thank you, Becky. Give me 1 second. I can fix that. All right, is that better?
Much better.
Hey, Brian. It's better.
Thank you. All right, so let's jump right into this. So a few things that we're going to cover on this afternoon. We're going to talk about who Sun is and how the solar co-op works. And then we'll venture a little bit into solar technology, batteries, and talk a little bit about EVs, or a little bit about the EV charging piece and battery storage. And then we'll talk a little bit about solar economics, and I'll be stopping in between each section to address any questions that may be in the chat. And Sukrit and Naomi will also be monitoring the chat for us this afternoon. Also want to shout out a couple of our partners who are currently on. I want to shout out CCAN. Their Hampton Roads organizer, Leonis Gunn, is on with us. And also want to shout out the Sierra Club's Virginia chapter, their community engagement coordinator, Bea Truman, is also with us. So thank you both for joining us on this afternoon. You'll be hearing from both of them as partners in future Solar 101s. All right, so let's go on to the next slide here. So who is Solar United Neighbors? So Sun is a vendor neutral, nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit. So we are not affiliated with any particular product or company. And we rely entirely upon community engagement and community involvement. We help people nationwide through our national help desk services, and answering any questions that any solar owners or prospective solar owners may have. I tell people to think of us as a niche organization. We are a consumer advocacy group, and we represent solar owners and prospective solar owners. Think of us like a AAA car club for solar owners. We are not an environmental group, but we are motivated by environmental causes, but we are a constituency group who focuses specifically on solar owners and prospective solar owners. And we do this through our theory of change, by helping people go solar, joining people together, and fighting for energy rights. We bring people together to address barriers to information, red tape, technology policy, and more. And just a little bit about our origin and our background. Solar United Neighbors began as a solar co-op in the Mount Pleasant area in Washington, D.C. back in 2007. Our founder here, pictured with her son, Walter, and his friend Diego, saw the movie An Inconvenient Truth. And Diego and Walter came home and said, "Mom, we have to go solar." And so Anya began to look into it and quickly found that going solar wasn't so easy, that the process was complicated, and there was a lot that she did not know. So her son and her friend her son and his friend decided to go door to door to enlist their neighbors to join them and try to untangle this complicated process. There were only a couple of companies working in the DC area at the time, and they were getting a lot of different quotes and didn't know how to read them. There were a lot of different rules and regulations and permitting pieces. So she challenged them, and underestimating her son's ability as a community organizer, they were able to gather about 45 of their neighbors to go solar. And then after that, Anya began to get several calls from people all across the country who wanted to organize similar co-ops in their area, and thus Solar United Neighbors was born. And now in 2024, we have members in all 50 states. We've run over 400 solar co-ops across the country, and we have over 70 staff members across 5 different time zones. Our impact, we're on the ground in 14 states, even though we have 1 million members nationwide in states where we may not have active programs. We have helped over 10,000 plus families to go solar as an organization, installing 82.1 megawatts of solar. And here in Virginia, those numbers translate to over 1,200 persons that we've helped go solar and installed 10.4 megawatts of solar, which is a utility scale size of solar. And we've continued through our policy work towards a more equitable energy system. I talked about our theory of change a little bit, and so I just want to go through what that is for us. We help people go solar, we join people together, and we fight for energy rights. And we do that by helping folks go solar. We give them the tools that are needed to prepare homeowners to go solar. You're going to hear me say this line again later on, that solar is a big ticket item, and understanding the costs and understanding the process is extremely important. We also don't just help new people go solar, we also help existing solar owners who may have questions or may need technical assistance. We don't more so help you with the why more than we help you with the what. Each person's why for going solar may be different, but our goal is to make sure that you are as informed as you possibly can be as you go on your solar journey. And we measure our impact as an organization by the amount of people that we can help, whether they're new solar owners or whether they're existing solar owners. Not only do we help people go solar, but we also join people together. What we found is that when someone goes solar, they want to connect with other solar owners and they want to share their experiences. So this allows for people to come together, allows people to volunteer for social events and other solar events, advocating for solar. We've also come to learn that solar is a big tent. They're all sides of the political spectrum. Solar owners are a very diverse group of people advocating for solar and for energy independence. And the join together aspect of our theory of change also allows folks who may not be in a position to go solar or may not own a home and can't go solar, but want to join in and become an advocate for helping others go solar. That gives them a space to come and join us in that quest. Not only do we help people go solar, not only do we join people together, but we also help fight for energy rights. And our thought on this is that our approach is practical. We focus on practical, pragmatic legislation that affects a person's ability to put solar on their home, business, school, or their house of worship. We work on all levels of policy, both federal, state, and local. Sun was extremely instrumental in passing a piece of HOA legislation in the state of Virginia that made it harder for HOAs to put unreasonable restrictions on placing solar on residents' homes. And we help with practical barriers to solar deployment as well as it relates to permitting. Sun VA has been very instrumental in helping Prince William County with their solar permitting for the past four years now. So we help people go solar, we help join them together, and we also fight for energy rights. Any questions? I'll pause there for just a moment and check the chat out. Oh, and I see. I also want to recognize one of our other partners, and Marie Leak with the Henrico Conservation Action Network is also present as well. Thank you for being here too.
And so far, so good, Brandon. No questions.
All right, great. So let's move on to how the solar co-op works. So we'll talk about how it works, the timeline, and why a solar co-op is going to be beneficial when looking to go solar. So what is a co-op? A co-op is a group buying program for solar PV and battery storage for homeowners and small businesses. It is a voluntary buying group that leverages the size of the group to get discounts towards solar installations. It saves consumers time and money by ensuring that they can work with a vetted installer that's going to deliver a high quality product at a very reasonable price. And this co-op is provided by Solar United Neighbors in partnership with local and regional partner organizations and local governments. So folks like HCAN, folks like CCAN, folks like Sierra Club, City of Norfolk are our collaborators in partnership with this, helping us to spread the word and to get residents signed up for our co-op. If Naomi could drop the co-op guide in the chat. Now, as a co-op, it is a group buying program, but it does have a beginning and it does have an end. So there is a limited time to be able to get the co-op pricing. And in this voluntary group, it is free to register, it is free to join, and there's no obligation needed to be a part of the solar co-op. So why go with a solar co-op? Number one, because it's a voluntary buying group. There's no obligation. Being a member of the co-op affords you not only the co-op pricing and some of the information and some of the education that comes with it, but you're not obligated to buy anything. So maybe you want to join the co-op right now because maybe you're not in the best position to go solar, but you want to learn more about it. So the co-op is a perfect opportunity for you. Also, it gives you the best value on your solar installation. By leveraging the group buying power, we're able to get competitive pricing from installers so that those savings are then passed along to each and every consumer. Also, why a solar co-op is because in the co-op, we give you the tools to make an informed decision. Your energy plan and your energy goals might look different from other members of the co-op, but having the tools to make the best decision for you are crucial. We also provide support throughout the entire process. You're able to reach out to us, and not only us, but also the installer that will be chosen. And we're able to offer technical assistance and to help you throughout the entire process. Also gives you a chance to connect with others and to join a growing solar movement. Connect with others, help others go solar, and become an advocate for solar deployment in the state of Virginia. And then the solar co-op is consumer driven and it is consumer focused. So every aspect of this co-op, from the selection of the installer, is all driven by members of the co-op. And so it is consumer driven and consumer focused. So let's talk a little bit about the co-op timeline. Right now, we're in this first box. We're in months 1 to 2. So during this time, we have some free solar co-op information sessions, like what we're doing this afternoon. You're able to sign up and become a member. And then we ask in this period that we spread the word about the co-op. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your networks, so that they can join and learn more about solar. And then around month 3, or once we've hit about 30 to 50 members in this co-op, we'll be ready to move on to the next phase of choosing an installer. We'll issue a competitive RFP for solar installers in the Richmond and Hampton Roads area. And then a group of members from the actual co-op will come together on a selection committee and will choose what installers are going to be chosen for this co-op. So you, as members of the co-op, drive all of the decision making as it relates to what installer we use and what RFPs we decide to go with. And so that if you sign up for the co-op, there'll be more information about the selection committee once we hit the requisite amount of registrants. And then on the back side of it, months 4 through 8, there will be a sign-up deadline. As I said, the co-op does have a beginning and it does have an end to be able to get that co-op pricing. And so in months 4 through 8, we'll reach our deadline in April, on April the 25th. You'll receive a customized co-op pricing proposal. And then you'll have the option to sign a contract with the installer. And then there'll be an installation period that'll happen for you. And then, as we're so famous for here in Virginia, at the end of the co-op and at the end of the installations, we'll come back together to celebrate the co-op and celebrate those who have gone solar in our solar co-op. All right, I'll pause there for any questions.
You're good, Brandon. No questions in the chat for now.
All right, seeing none, thank you, Sukrit. I will move on. So now we're going to talk a little bit about solar tech. Just give a baseline understanding of a little bit of solar tech for you today. So how do solar panels work, right? So we'll be talking today about solar photovoltaic or solar PV, which converts solar energy into electricity. Majority of today's solar market is PV tech. There are some solar thermal technology, but that's not what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about solar photovoltaic today. So here we'll talk a little bit about the system components and what makes up a system. So here in this photo and on this slide, you see to your left a panel or a module, a solar panel or a solar module. And you see the different elements that make them up, from the glass to the frame to the solar cells. And then to the right of that, you see a solar array. When panels are strung together, that makes them in a solar array. Panels are typically about 3 by 5 or 4 by 6. They generally weigh about 40 pounds. And panels are measured in watts. And these panels generate electricity in direct current. And we'll talk about how that direct current is inverted into alternating current to be used into your home. So a couple of important terms of that you're going to see on a proposal. You'll see kilowatts, which is the system. Your system is going to be measured in kilowatts. So that talks about the capacity that your solar system is able to produce. Kilowatt hours talks about the electricity production that you've consumed. The average size of a system is about 6 to 7 kilowatts. And that depends on your site. That depends on what your goals are, whether, budget, and depending on how much of your annual consumption you're trying to offset. So here in this photo, you see a set of panels, each panel measuring 300 watts. So this would be a scaled photo of a 3.6 kilowatt system. All right. So when you start to talk about your roof, what makes for a good roof for solar? There are a few things that go into this. Number one is going to be roof orientation. You want to make sure, as you can see in the diagram, we are in the northern hemisphere. So for us, facing south is going to be the best direction. Does not mean that an east or west or southwest or southeast facing roof will not produce. It will still produce. It is not recommended to mount a system on your roof facing north. And so we want to be as south as we can, but east and west is also good, but north is not recommended. Other than roof orientation, you also want to look to see what kind of shading you're going to have. The general consensus is that you want to make sure you have no shading on your roof or where your system is going to be mounted between the hours of about 10 a.m. and 3 p.m., which is where we see a lot of the best solar production. So you want to have little to no shading, and that could be shading from trees, that can be shading from another house, that can be shading from another building. So you want to make sure you have little to no shading, but then within about 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Thirdly, you want to make sure you have enough space on your roof to mount panels. General rule of thumb is you want to have at least 200 square feet of unobstructed roof space, free of any dormers, gables, skylights, chimneys, to be able to mount panels. This doesn't necessarily have to be panels mounted on one side of your roof. If you have multiple sides, your installer will look to see what the best orientation is going to be for you to produce the energy needed for you. So not only roof orientation, little to no shading, enough space to mount your panels. You also lastly want to make sure you have a newer and or undamaged roof. General rule of thumb is that you want to have at least 10 years of roof life left. And this is to help protect against any kind of undue cost, because if you needed to replace your roof, or you had less than that time left on the life of your roof, you would have to then unmount that system, redo your roof, and then add that system back, and that can incur some unexpected costs. So it is recommended that you have at least 10 years of roof life left, and your installer will let you know if your roof is going to be suitable enough to handle the racking and to handle the weight of the solar system. So we'll look at a couple of racking systems. So here in this picture, we see the most common type of roof in the state of Virginia, an asphalt shingle roof. And we see these installers mounting that racking and then mounting the solar panels on that racking. So if you have an asphalt shingle roof, that's going to be one of the better roofs to mount a system on. Then we have here a standing seam metal roof. I like to consider this to be the Wawa roof, which is actually pretty good with standing seam metal roofs because there's no penetration that happens. The racking system clamps to the seams on the roof, and then the panels are then installed on that racking system. If you have a slate roof, most installers either may not install on a slate roof, or they would have an upcharge to do so, because slate roofs do add for a more complex install. So if you do have a slate roof and you would like to go solar through the co-op, please check with the installers selected to see if they do installations on a slate roof. Maybe you don't want to do a roof mount. You've got some space on the ground, or maybe you have a slate roof, or maybe your roof has less than 10 years of life. You can always do a ground mounted system. So I have the privilege of also pastoring a small church in Norfolk, Virginia. And I took my church solar back in 2020, and we did a ground mount. And this picture is a picture of our ground mounted system. It's a 21 kilowatt system that we had mounted. Ground mounts can be good if space allows, or if your roof is not suitable. And it also allows you to more efficiently orient that ground mount to the sun, increasing production for you. But ground mounts do tend to be a little higher in cost because there is some trenching that would have to happen in order to run wires to your electrical panels, as well as build the racking system for it. Ideally, you want to make sure you're within 50 to 100 feet of your nearest meter if you're considering a ground mounted system. And before I move on, I just want to back up. If you have a flat roof, you can also install on a flat roof, which would almost give you the same kind of flexibility as a ground mount, since you'd be able to mount that system on a flat roof and orient it in any way using a ballast system that the installer will use to rack that system. So slate or asphalt shingle roof, standing seam metal roof, flat roof, ground mounted systems. But if you also have a slate roof, please check with your installer. Then we have some system components that I want to go through. So we talk a little bit about how solar panels produce direct current. And then that direct current has to be converted into alternating current to be used in your home. So here we have a picture of 3 different types of inverters. And these inverters are energy conditioning devices that change that direct current to alternating current so that it can be used in your home, school, business, or your house of worship. The inverter is the brain of your system. It monitors production and can tell you if your production goes up and down, especially if you have the string inverter with DC optimizers or micro inverters. Your string inverter is mostly going to be used for ground mounts or for commercial systems. On the market now, we typically see more string inverters with DC optimizers or micro inverters. And the good thing about those is they allow you to calculate a panel level performance without bringing the panel production down of any of the rest of the system. So if you have a one panel that's poorly performing, the DC optimizers and micro inverters will isolate that panel so it does not bring the production of the rest of the system down. And they also allow for troubleshooting to be able to monitor production. It'll become one of your favorite toys once you add solar, to be able to see what your system is producing in real time. In addition to the panels, the racking system, your inverter, then there's your electrical panel. It's a simple connection to your electrical panel. Most home electric systems don't need any upgrades before adding solar. The installer will take a look at your electric panel and see if there's enough space. If there is not, then they will make a recommendation to have your panel updated if it is outdated. But for the most part, most home electric systems don't need any upgrades to their electric panels before adding solar. So we're going to bring all these pieces together and kind of talk about how this works through a system of net metering. So here in this photo, you see, and through our numbered steps, first, we have solar panels that are mounted to a roof, and the sun absorbs that energy in direct current. That direct current is then converted through your inverter from direct current to alternating current that is then used in your home or office right then, home, business, or office. And then once your interconnection is done, your utility, for most of us is going to be Dominion, will come out and put a bidirectional meter on your home. On your current home right now, if you're not a solar owner, you have a one-way meter that only pulls energy from the grid. But with this bidirectional meter, you'll be able to not only pull energy from the grid, but also send energy to the grid. So then any excess energy from your solar panels that isn't used in that moment is then sent back to the grid. And we'll talk in this next slide about how that relates. So because of that system of net metering, you're going to get a one-to-one credit for the kilowatt hours of which you consume. This may result in daily or seasonal surpluses. So you think of it more so like the old rollover minutes that AT&T used to have. You might have 1,000 minutes, and what minutes you did not use rolls over to the next month. That's what happens with those daily and seasonal surpluses. Net metering happens on an annual billing cycle, not on a calendar year. So it's based on your interconnection date. So I'll use my church, for example. Our church was interconnected in February. So our annual billing cycle for net metering runs from February to February. And net metering can help with the percentage of the annual offset of your energy consumption. And this next slide just kind of talks about what that looks like in example. So let's say during a month that you consumed 300 kilowatt hours of electricity, and you produced with your solar system 250 kilowatts of solar. So on your bill, you'd only pay for 50 kilowatts of energy. And let's look at the reverse of this. Let's say you consume the 250 kilowatt hours, but you produce 300 kilowatt hours. So that means you have a credit of 50 kilowatt hours that will roll over to the next month to be used against your next month's energy consumption. There are a few things that you will see on your bill. There will be a fixed connection charge. For Dominion, it's about $6.50, and with some taxes, it comes out to be somewhere around $15. And then, like I said, your surpluses are carried over from month to month, and your annual billing cycle is based on your interconnection date. I'm going to hit these frequently asked questions, and then I'm going to pause to answer any questions that may be in the chat. So here are a few frequently asked questions that we typically run into. People ask about warranties. What about warranties for my system? Panels typically come with a 25-year production warranty, maintaining a solid efficiency over that time. Solar panels don't have any moving parts, so there's not a lot that can fail. They are turnkey ready. And those warranties tend to be about 10 to 25 years for any manufacturer defects. The inverters typically carry about a 10 to 25 year warranty as well. And your installer will generally have a 3 to 10 year workmanship warranty on any work that was done. So any roof penetration, any conduits as far as electricity or electrical wiring that's being run. They'll also have anywhere between a 3 to 10 year workmanship warranty as well. People ask about homeowners insurance. Yes, you should let your homeowners insurance know that you have added solar in Dominion territory. They actually do require you to inform them that you have let your homeowners insurance know that you have added solar to your home. We have a lot of questions about maintenance, like, do I have to maintenance my system? As I just said, these are turnkey ready systems with very little maintenance. So you don't have to get up on your roof and clear any snow. The rain will clean it. Most panels are hail resistant, and they do offer through microinverters and the DC optimizers online monitoring, so you don't have to get on your roof to do anything. It is good every maybe 3 to 5 years to have your installer come up and check, make sure everything is running smoothly, because the biggest culprits for solar systems on roofs are squirrels. So it's always good every three years or so to have your installer come out and just do an inspection check for you. How long do systems last? The expected lifespan of the system is anywhere between 25 plus years. And like I said, every 3 to 5 years or so, have your installer come out and just make sure everything is running smoothly. Maybe you live in an area where you have a homeowners association, and will they allow you to add solar to your home? As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, Sun helped pass a piece of legislation to help solar owners who live in HOAs add solar without any unreasonable restrictions. And the code describes an unreasonable restriction if your HOA forces you to move that system and it results in either 1, an increase of the price of the system by 5% or more, or 2, if it decreases the production of the system by 10% or more, that is considered an unreasonable restriction, and your HOA cannot limit you on that unless they have previously passed covenants that would prohibit solar. If they have previously voted on covenants, those covenants will supersede existing policy. And then lastly, what if I'm in a historic district? Number one, just make sure you let your installer know if you do live in a historic district. Sometimes there are going to be some restrictions if you do live in a historic district. Typically, those restrictions are dealing with line of sight. So if you are in a historic district, I would say check on the ordinances in your locality to see if there are any kind of restrictions, and then let your installer know as well. So I'm going to pause here. And Sukrit, do we have any questions in the chat to be answered?
Hey Brandon, so far so good. We just have one question from Ben over here. Let me just scroll up and find it. So he says he's from an electric cooperative, and he said that he's concerned about scammers and unscrupulous vendors taking advantage of their members, many of them of whom are on limited means. How would a partnership with Sun help their members? Now, I did mention our help desk about vetting, good and bad actors in the industry. Do you have any input on a potential Sun membership or a partnership with them?
Yeah, I mean, Sun would be we'd be more than willing to partner with the co-op, partner with an electric co-op, especially if they're looking to take members of the co-op solar. And one of the benefits there, Ben, would be the vetting that we do. We only work with reputable installers in the state of Virginia. Even though we are a vendor neutral organization, we try our best to work with installers that have very good warranties, that have very good products, and that have a track record of customer excellence and of good work. So I'd definitely be open to that. Please reach out to us. And there's definitely some collaboration that I think we can do there to ensure that the members of those co-ops, of those electric co-ops, are not taken advantage of, or that there's not any unscrupulous actors that are targeting them. Making sure that consumers are protected is an extremely important piece for us, and making sure they have all the information necessary to go solar, to be able to recognize that is definitely one of our missions. So I'd definitely be willing to have that conversation with you. And I see that you're a member of Southside Electric Co-op.
Perfect. Sounds good, Brandon. I will also drop our Virginia team email for Ben, and no other questions for now. Thank you.
Thank you. So as moving on, we'll talk a little bit about battery storage a little bit. So what happens when your power goes out? It's good to know that 99% of solar systems in the United States are grid tied. So that means that you are still tied to the grid with your solar system. So if the grid were to go down, your inverter will shut the system off because it is a safety mechanism, because you don't want, as utility workers are working on utility lines, you don't want to be producing and backfeeding energy. So once the inverter notices that the system is down, it will automatically shut production of the system off until the grid comes back up as a safety mechanism. If you would want power during a power outage, then you would need battery storage. A few values of battery storage. If you experience frequent utility outages, backup power and battery storage might be something that you would want to consider. If you have critical loads at your home, i.e. you might have a well pump, or you might have medical equipment, or you might need refrigeration for medicine. Having the ability to run those critical loads in the event of a power outage may be another reason to consider battery storage. Or maybe you want to be ready for an emergency or for a disaster. You can also look at battery storage as well. Some of the drawbacks of battery storage is it can be a little complex with battery storage. If you're looking to install a system and maybe add battery storage to later down the road, you can let your installer know, and they can install the system in such a way that makes it easy to add battery storage later on. And then also cost. Battery storage the costs have began to plateau a little bit, and the cost of batteries are coming down, but it is an additional cost to the installation to add battery storage. And then the complexity for batteries is that they have more components, and so that adds one more piece of component to the solar project. But there are some clear advantages to it, and the tech for battery is starting to catch up as well. I do want to note here that it is very unlikely that you would be able to power your entire home on a battery. So you will have to pick and choose what power sources you would want to use. We are seeing battery storage. Batteries come out with storage now that range anywhere between maybe 2 to 3 days of energy to be used that can be stored. And in the chat, they'll drop the battery storage for our homeowners guide. So if you're considering battery storage for yourself, please use our guide. It kind of walks you through some of the questions and some of the things to consider if you're considering battery storage. So before I go to the solar economics piece, that should take us a couple of minutes. I just want to pause and see, Sukrit, if we have any questions.
No, you're all set. We just dropped the battery guide. No other questions for now.
All right, so let's move into talking about a little bit of solar economics. So what we see from over time is that since 2010, the costs for solar have dropped about 73%. Solar, as I said earlier, is a big ticket item. So it is a long-term investment. Again, there are no moving parts, and you're expected to have a 25-year plus lifespan. Some of the benefits of solar economics is you're able to hedge against rising utility rates. So I'll use my church for example. We went solar back in 2020, and since then the utility rate for Dominion has risen, but I haven't seen it because going solar, we were able to hedge against those rising rates with the one-to-one net metering credit. And the average return on investment for a solar system in the state of Virginia is anywhere between 9 to 13 years. Depends on the size of the system and the cost of the system. And also depends on what your energy goals are going to be, how much you're consuming, and how much of your annual consumption you're looking to offset as well. And once you pay your system back, then that means you'll be making free electricity for yourself going forward. Now, and as I talk about the rising rates, generally rates may rise about 2 to 3% per year. And we've seen in the past decade that Dominion's rates have increased about 30%. So going solar gives you the economics to be able to hedge against those rising utility rates. Looking at the cost of solar, a lot of the cost per watt, so solar is priced by the watt, not by the panel. Let me say that again. You can have 35 panels installed on your home, and your system could cost less than someone who has 20 panels installed on their home, because solar is not priced by the panel, it's priced by the actual watt. And so a lot of that cost from an installer results in soft cost. So customer acquisition, seeking out customers who want to install solar. So the solar co-op helps reduce a lot of that installer soft cost, and then the reduction of those soft costs are then passed on to the consumer, which is what allows you to get solar at a very competitive price in our co-op pricing. So that's just a little bit of breakdown of how the co-op helps reduce cost and save you money by going solar as a part of the solar co-op. And just a quick overview here of what that pricing might look like. So just want to talk about here how solar is priced, what are your revenue streams, and looking and how does your system pay itself back. So we've got 2 columns here looking at 2 different types of systems, at a 4 kilowatt system as well as an 8 kilowatt system. Average co-op pricing we've seen to be somewhere around $275 a watt, which would in turn make that 4 kilowatt system about $11,000, and the 8 kilowatt system about $22,000. And with the federal tax credit that is available at 30%, that would reduce the cost of that system, of that 4 kilowatt system by $3,300, and by the 8 kilowatt system by $6,600. I also want to stress here that in order to claim the federal tax credit, you must have a tax liability. You can defer that cost for up to 5 years if you install a system and you don't have enough federal withholding at the time to be able to claim it. You can defer that for up to 5 years, but you do need to have some kind of federal tax liability to claim that federal tax credit. Now, maybe you're a business, or maybe you're a house of worship, or you're a nonprofit. You can also claim that 30% credit through what's called direct pay, which is through the Inflation Reduction Act that opened up that tax credit incentive to nonprofits, businesses, and houses of worship. You would have to install the system first and then apply for that tax credit. At that point, it would be refunded to you, and you'll get a check in the mail for 30% off for 30% of what the installation cost was. So when you look at what the revenue streams are and how the system pays it back, and I just stress that these are estimated, and so your electric savings and consumptions are going to look different based on your usage. But you're going to save some money in your first year, and then you see a 10-year savings. So a lifetime savings over 25 years on a 4 kilowatt system might be estimated somewhere around $16,000. And then on an 8 kilowatt system, somewhere around $32,000. And then there's another revenue stream for you. The tax credit is an incentive tax credit, but then there's a production-based credit, which is what are called solar renewable energy credits. And this is a production-based credit that gives you a certificate based on the amount of, for every 1,000 kilowatts of energy that is generated or produced by your system, whether it's used at your home or whether it's put on to the grid. And when you do your installation, you can work with your installer, who'll help you set up your SRECs with an SREC brokerage firm. And the cost of SRECs in the state of Virginia are about $30 to $40 per SREC. So you can look to save somewhere maybe between $200 to $400 a year, depending on the size of your system. There are some financing options that you may be looking to pay for your system out of pocket, but you may be looking at some finance options as well. And so there are a few ways that you could undertake that. You look at a home equity line of credit. You can look to refinance, including solar. There are other types of loans that are offered. Co-op members do have access to loans from Clean Energy Credit Union and Community First Credit Union, which are some renewable energy lenders in the state of Virginia. And your installer may also offer financing through their own financing company. So please make sure you ask your installer. They should let you know about all financing options that they have available, as well as any that may be available to you outside of them. Financing is an option. It does lengthen that return on investment from around 9 years to more along the 10, 12, 11 years. 10, 11, 12-year time period. And we do encourage folks to shop around for financing and to shop around at different lending institutions to see what your best options are. I'm going to pause there for some questions. And Sukrit, do we have any questions in the chat?
No questions. I think you're good. The only thing I'll add is on the SRECs and stuff, I know it can be a complicated topic, but do not overlook it. It is a benefit. It is an added revenue stream. And just wanted to add as well, there are a few brokers in the region if you go and sign a contract with Soul Systems, they're actually a partner, so you qualify for a 50% discount on your broker fees. Now, if that went over your head, no worries. Just drop us an email and we'll be happy to share more details on our help desk.
Thank you, Sukrit, for adding that. Folks, this brings us to the end. I've enjoyed my time with you, but what do we do next? So here's our ask for you next. We ask that you join the co-op, register for the co-op at solarunited-neighbors.org/RBA/HR 2024. And I believe that they're going to drop that in the chat. They'll drop the link for the co-op page. You can go and register. It is completely free. There is no buying obligation. And by joining the co-op, you'll continue to get updates as the co-op continues to progress, as well as information about any future information in Solar 101 sessions. And then as we continue to grow the co-op, we'll move on to the next phase where we begin to select an installer. Again, I think as of this morning, if I'm not mistaken, I think we were somewhere around 20 registrants. We want to get that number somewhere around 40 to 50 so that we can get a good share of folks in the co-op. And then we'll begin our RFP process and begin to form our selection committee. And then after that, be ready for a consultation from the installer and for possible installation if you choose to move forward. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, post it on Nextdoor, post it on social media. Maybe there's someone that you know who's been considering solar, or maybe there's someone that you know who wants to learn more about solar before they decide to go. The co-op is the perfect opportunity for them to learn. So join and share the co-op. Look out for future updates and be sure to spread the word. Our goal is to make sure that you are the smartest consumer possible when it comes to adding solar, and Sun VA is committed to being here to help you as you go through your solar journey. Again, thank you all for joining us for this webinar this afternoon. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us at VAteam@solarunitedneighbors.org. One of our team members, myself, Sukrit, or Naomi, will be glad to reach out to you and answer any technical questions and offer as much assistance as we can to you during your solar journey. Before we end, I want to stop and ask if there are any other questions before we end this afternoon.
No questions, Brandon, but a couple of shout outs for you. This was great, and thank you to everyone who joined us.
Thank you again. Thank you to our partners who came and joined us. So if you live in the Richmond area or the Hampton Roads area and one of those partners were on, there are going to be some other partner co-hosted information sessions. And thank you all for your patience today. And thank you all for being on. And again, this webinar has been recorded. And if you registered for this event, a link will be sent out to you. Thank you, Susan, who went solar with us in our 2029 co-op, and we appreciate your continued support of Sun and our solar deployment through our solar co-ops. Again, thank you all. Hope everybody has a great and safe holiday. Sign up for the co-op, and there'll be more information coming out in the new year. Everybody have a good afternoon.